In a notable shift in U.S. foreign policy, President-elect Donald Trump has indicated that one of his primary objectives before taking office is to broker a ceasefire agreement in Gaza, a region long plagued by violence and instability. A Reuters report highlighted that Trump, seeking to make an early mark on Middle East diplomacy, has made significant efforts to engage in the Gaza conflict, even before his official inauguration. In an attempt to lay the groundwork for a potential ceasefire deal, Trump sent his incoming Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, to meet with prominent leaders from both Israel and Qatar. These diplomatic discussions took place in late November 2016, signaling that Trump's administration was already preparing to address the long-standing crisis in Gaza. The outreach to key players in the region reflects Trump's commitment to engaging in one of the most protracted and contentious conflicts in the Middle East. The Gaza conflict has been marked by intermittent wars, periodic escalations, and a significant humanitarian crisis that has resulted in thousands of casualties, most of them civilians. Israel and the Palestinian territories, including Gaza, have been caught in a cycle of violence for decades, with no comprehensive resolution on the horizon. As a candidate, Trump had expressed a strong desire to contribute to solving the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and his actions following his election have reflected that ambition. The diplomatic mission led by Witkoff involved separate meetings with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Qatari Prime Minister Sheikh Abdullah bin Nasser bin Khalifa Al Thani, who plays a crucial role in mediating between various factions in the Middle East. Qatar, under Al Thani's leadership, has long been a major player in regional politics, particularly due to its financial support for Palestinian factions, including Hamas, which governs Gaza. Netanyahu's leadership in Israel, of course, places him at the heart of any peace discussions involving Gaza, especially given Israel's central role in the conflict. By meeting separately with these key figures, Trump's team signaled its intention to understand both sides' concerns and positions while attempting to build a framework for an eventual ceasefire agreement. Trump's decision to get involved in such high-stakes diplomacy before even taking office speaks volumes about his approach to foreign policy. The move reflects a willingness to take immediate action on pressing international issues rather than waiting for the formal transition of power. It aligns with Trump's broader strategy of being a more direct, deal-making president who seeks practical solutions rather than relying on the traditional methods of diplomacy and lengthy negotiations. For Trump, this approach represents an effort to avoid what he perceives as stagnation in U.S. foreign policy and to seize the initiative on key matters like the Gaza crisis, where past administrations have struggled to achieve lasting peace. While Trump's intentions may be seen as ambitious, they also point to the desire for a more active U.S. role in the region. By working directly with Netanyahu and Al Thani, Trump's team is also signaling a desire to work closely with both Israel and Qatar, both of which are influential in the Gaza conflict. While Israel has long been an ally of the United States, Qatar's role as a mediator in the region adds a layer of complexity to these discussions. Qatar has had a long-standing relationship with Hamas and has been involved in providing financial support for Gaza, making it an essential player in any negotiations regarding a ceasefire. In the weeks leading up to the inauguration, the Trump administration's involvement in Gaza raised questions about the United States' future policy toward the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Trump's approach seems focused on practical diplomacy, with an emphasis on forging a ceasefire agreement rather than directly addressing the underlying issues that have fueled the conflict for decades. Critics, however, questioned whether this strategy could be effective in the long term, especially given the complex web of political, religious, and territorial issues that underpin the Gaza conflict. The decision to prioritize Gaza before taking office might also indicate a broader strategic shift in U.S. foreign policy. Under President Barack Obama, the U.S. played a more passive role in Middle East peace efforts, often relying on multilateral institutions such as the United Nations to engage in the conflict. Trump, on the other hand, seems intent on being more hands-on and engaging in high-level talks with key players directly. His choice to focus on Gaza early in his presidency could reflect his desire to take concrete steps toward resolving conflicts quickly, especially in regions that have long been neglected or sidelined in broader international discussions. As a result of these early diplomatic overtures, Trump has demonstrated a keen interest in engaging with the most significant issues facing the Middle East, notably the Gaza crisis. The region, marked by violence, political fragmentation, and humanitarian disasters, has long eluded comprehensive solutions. The U.S. has often been caught in the middle of the tensions between Israel and Palestinian factions, with no lasting peace agreement reached despite multiple attempts over the years. Trump's involvement in seeking a ceasefire agreement could, in theory, offer a fresh approach to resolving the crisis, though critics argue that without addressing the underlying political and territorial disputes, any ceasefire would likely be temporary and fragile. In the broader context, Trump's engagement in the Gaza conflict signals a new phase in U.S. foreign policy, one in which the U.S. president plays a more direct role in attempting to broker peace agreements rather than relying on bureaucratic processes. The emphasis on securing a ceasefire in Gaza may be seen as part of Trump's broader foreign policy philosophy of cutting through traditional diplomatic norms and seeking outcomes that he perceives as both pragmatic and achievable. It remains to be seen whether this approach will yield results in Gaza or whether it will face the same challenges as past diplomatic efforts, but it certainly sets the stage for a more hands-on, engaged U.S. role in Middle East diplomacy under the Trump administration. Ultimately, Trump's actions regarding Gaza before officially taking office reflect his approach to international conflicts, his desire to play an active role in resolving major global issues, and his willingness to engage directly with regional powers to secure meaningful agreements. Whether these early diplomatic efforts will lead to a lasting ceasefire in Gaza or pave the way for more significant peace talks remains to be seen. However, Trump's immediate focus on the conflict indicates his determination to reshape the U.S.'s role in Middle Eastern affairs and to forge a new path in international diplomacy that prioritizes direct negotiation and tangible results. The long-term effectiveness of this strategy, however, will depend on the willingness of all parties involved to work together towards a peaceful resolution.